Hey everybody, we are just about to shoot the first in our series of holiday episodes to kind of round out the year for 2025. But before we get to shooting those episodes, we have a couple of really exciting things that we want to share with you. So first of all, we are super excited to be announcing that we are going to be starting a collaboration, the Consummate Host with Amalur Kitchen and Lounge. If you remember, my launch party episode, birthday episode, was hosted in the space where Amalur Kitchen and Lounge is at. We are going to be collaborating on monthly experiential dinners, and we are calling the program Entre Copas, which means between the cups. So these will be very carefully curated dining experiences that involve cocktails, wine pairings, of course, beautiful table settings, really showcasing our ability to create experience through the art of dining. So our first one is going to be December 11th. So keep your eyes open. We're going to be promoting that. We're going to be giving you options on how you can make reservations. It will be by reservation only. And these will also always be very small groups. So something to look forward to. And something else that's so exciting is we are about to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So for all of you who are out there, if you're seeing this, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, please subscribe, get your friends to subscribe. Everybody that subscribes from now till we hit 1,000 is going to be entered in a drawing to win a dinner for 4 at Entre Copas. So really exciting news. We're getting ready to do this episode, but we just wanted to share that we're starting this experiential dining program and that we're about to hit 1,000 subscribers and have an awesome getaway for you. So now we're going to do our next episode. Enjoy. Hey everybody, happy holidays! This is the first in our series of holiday episodes rounding out the year of 2025. I cannot believe we are almost done with this year. It seems like just yesterday that we launched the Consummate Host March 1st, but here we are wrapping up the year. So a few exciting things to talk about before we get into this episode. First of all, super excited to be sharing that I am going to be spending the holidays in Europe. I'm going to be traveling in Austria, Italy, and Germany for sure. Maybe a few other spots if I can work it in. But anyway, you know, as I always say, I love to hear from my audience. I love to hear from my subscribers. So if there's anyone out there that has suggestions on those destinations, I'm going to be in the Umbria area of Italy. I'm going to be around Vienna and the surrounding areas in Austria, also in Berlin. So if anybody has suggestions and wants to share those, please leave something in the comment or send me a direct message. I always look forward to hearing from everyone. You know, when I think back to the holidays, there are so many traditions that I grew up with centered around Christmas. And one of my very favorite ones I'm going to be sharing with you this evening. So we're going to be making these delicious no-bake oatmeal chocolate peanut butter cookies. And when I taste these, it's literally one of those things. It's like tasting a childhood memory. I associate the Christmas season, I associate the holidays with this very specific cookie. And what I love about it is it's very simple. 8 simple ingredients, 2 minutes on the stove top, dip them out, no bake, and so delicious. So I'm so excited to share that. Not only are we going to make cookies, I'm going to give you a couple of gifting ideas of what you can do with the cookies after they're made, and just talk about how these cookies could maybe become a tradition for your family. Let's have some fun. All right, so one of the things I love about this recipe is 8 simple ingredients. So we have got 3 cups of instant oats. We've got 2 cups of white sugar. We've got a 1/2 cup each of milk, peanut butter and butter. So I use crunchy or extra crunchy peanut butter because I love the nutty element in these particular cookies. You don't have to. You can use just regular peanut butter, but I love the crunch. It gives a little bit more texture to it. So a half a cup of each of those, 3 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, a pinch of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. That's all the ingredients. And another thing I love about these two is they are no bake, so we're gonna have a little moment on the stovetop, but then we just spoon them out, they harden up on their own, or I'm gonna teach you a little secret about how you can make them kind of cure a little bit faster. But that's all of our ingredients. To get started with, what you're gonna wanna do is, you're gonna wanna set the oats, the vanilla, and the peanut butter aside. We're gonna start with the sugar, the milk, the butter, the cocoa, and the salt on the stovetop. So let's head over to the stove. So as I mentioned, we're gonna start with our sugar, milk, butter, cocoa, and salt. What we're gonna do is we're gonna combine all of these ingredients. We're gonna bring this to a rolling boil, and then we're gonna time it for 2 minutes at the boil. So let's go ahead and put these ingredients in. I like to soften the butter. If you soften the butter first, I just let it sit out at room temperature for a couple of hours before we put it in. The benefit of that is if you put cold butter in, sometimes there's a little inconsistency when it's coming to the boil, so you still have little chunks of the frozen butter that kind of interrupts that process. So just let your butter stay out for, you know, a couple of hours before you put all this together. Here's our cocoa. And a pinch of salt. For those of you that know me, you know I always go a little heavier on the salt. I love the salty sweet combo, so I'm gonna do like a double pinch. It's up to you and your taste. I like to soften the butter. If you soften the butter first, I just let it sit out at room temperature for a couple of hours before we put it in. The benefit of that is if you put cold butter in, sometimes there's a little inconsistency when it's coming to the boil, so you still have little chunks of the frozen butter that kind of interrupts that process. So just let your butter stay out for, you know, a couple of hours before you put all this together. I start with the heat on high. So we're gonna stir all this together, and like I said, we're gonna bring it to that rolling boil. As soon as we get to the boil, turn your heat down to medium or even slightly below medium, because we don't wanna scorch what we're boiling, and the medium temperature is enough to keep the rolling boil going, but like I said, we're eliminating the possibility of scorching it. So we have our peanut butter completely melted into our cocoa mixture. I like to add the oats a third at a time. So add a third, stir it in, second third, stir it in, last third, stir it in. That just makes it easier with the consistency. If you dump it all at once, it can be globby and it's a little harder to stir. So 1/3 at a time. Another thing with this particular recipe, I oftentimes will double the batch. So simply double the ingredients and follow all the instructions exactly the same. You'll want to use more like maybe a larger pot just so it can handle the capacity. I would not recommend doing more than doubling the recipe, because when we get ready to start dipping these out onto the parchment paper to actually make the cookies, if the batch is too large, they can have a tendency to start setting up before you've got the entire batch dipped out to be the cookies. So absolutely feel free to double the batch, follow the same ingredients, but I would not go beyond doubling the batch. Okay, so now we have all of our ingredients cooked and mixed together. We're ready to drop our cookies out. Just a couple of things I've noticed on multiple recipes similar to this. Sometimes they say to use a teaspoon to dollop out your cookies. Well, okay, I'm sorry, like the serving size of a teaspoon, and yes, many of those recipes say it's gonna yield like 2 dozen or 3 dozen cookies. Those cookies are so small, it's like a glorified Hershey's Kiss, so why bother? I use a tablespoon, and I use a nice, kind of just healthy, robust portion, because I want a nice sized cookie. I don't want to be giving away tiny little bite-sized cookies. So we're gonna use tablespoons, and then what you do is you just go in, you load your tablespoon with our mixture, and then you just spoon it out onto your parchment paper. Now, the reason I am doing this onto a tray, I mentioned that I was gonna share a little secret. There's a couple of options of what you can do. You can spoon out all of your cookies and then just let them sit. And usually within an hour, they have firmed up. But if you want to accelerate the process, you can pop them in the fridge. And so I'm doing these on a tray so we can pop them in the fridge. And generally, if they go in the fridge, they'll be ready in about 20 minutes or so. So like I said, a nice, healthy little serving, just like this. So we've got these on our tray. We're gonna pop these in the fridge, and then we'll pull them out and talk about our cookies. So as I said, once you have kind of dolloped out your cookies onto your parchment paper, you can just let them set at room temperature, and generally after about an hour or so, they'll be firm enough so that you can take them up, or like I said, if you want to stick them in the fridge, they're ready to go in 20 minutes. So then, once they've set, they are ready to be served. All right, so let's have a taste. So delicious. For me, this is literally like tasting a childhood holiday memory. It reminds me so much of some of the just customs that we had growing up, and it's so delicious. And like I said, maybe this will be an idea. This could become a tradition for you and your family. So when I do these, as I mentioned before, I usually do double batches, and I like to keep these around the house really throughout the entire season. Guests always love them. And then what I do is I like to get these little tins, and what's great about these is these are like dollar store items. And so, I found the little tin. I love this kind of candy cane napkin, so that for this year, that's gonna be kind of my theme with this. So I wrap the cookies in the napkin, I put them in the tin, and then I just, seal them up with some ribbon. Keep these around because these are great. We base everything we do off of the warm welcome, magic moment, fond farewell. And it's so lovely if you have guests and you've got these already made, you've got something to give them and send away with them. And I print the recipe and put it on the inside as well. So they've got the recipe so they can take the tradition and maybe take it to their family. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. It's been such a thrill and a pleasure for me to share something that was so memorable from my holiday experiences growing up. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next week with our next holiday episode. Have a wonderful day.